Hello there, and welcome to CalFacts. A bee could visit 50 to 100 flowers on a single trip for nectar. A queen bee can lay 2,500 eggs in a day. In its lifetime, a bee will be able to produce about half a teaspoon of honey. Worker bees have a 6 to 8 week lifespan. Beekeeping dates back to 4,500 years ago. Bees like coffee. Just like humans, caffeine keeps these bees busy and alert and active. This is why they are drawn to flowers with coffee nectar. There are 3 kinds of bees with specific roles. A colony social hierarchy usually comprises of 3 bee types: workers, drones, and the queen. As the name suggests, all female worker bees are responsible for labor from collecting honey to hive work. Meanwhile, drones or male bees do not do anything except copulate with the colony's queen bee to produce more eggs. Finally, the queen bees lay eggs, make the hive, and rule all the bees in the colony. Truly one of the most interesting bee facts. A queen bee does a mating flight. The queen bee leaves its hive and copulates with at least 45 drones at a time. All the collected sperm will be stored in the spermatheca, leaving the queen with a lifetime supply of sperm. Bees don't have the innate nature to make honey. Although it may seem like second nature to them, bees aren't born with the instinct to make honey. As such, older bees in the hive must teach them how. A bee's brain is as small as a sesame seed. A bee's oval-shaped brain may be small, but it excels at remembering and learning things. Queen bees live for a maximum of 5 years. In a day, the queen bee can lay 2,500 eggs. Queens tend to be busier during the summer as they need to reinforce the hives for the winter. Bees do a waggle dance when they find the perfect nectar. When they find the perfect nectar for the day, bees fly back to their hives and share the information with their fellow bees by dancing. This dance indicates the position of the flower from their hive in the sun. It's kind of adorable. Bees are sensitive to smell. One of the most amazing bee facts is that bees have a heightened sense of smell. In total, bees have 170 specialized receptors for odor. This allows them to know which types of flowers have pollen and nectar in them. There are 20,000 species of bees. Bees are insects that come from the family of Apoideae. Their large family is composed of many bee species, such as honeybees and bumblebees. In terms of genitals, bees are closely related to flies and wasps. Bees do not sleep. Even though they rest at night, bees remain conscious 24/7. Definitely one for bee facts you shouldn't sleep on. Get it? Got 'em. Bee species have 5 eyes. Whoa. Small as they seem, bees have eyes along both sides of their heads. The remaining 3 eyes are located at the top of their head, which gives them the ability to see UV light. Humans can be killed by 1,100 bee stings. Bee venom contains proteins that attack skin cells in the immune system, causing pain and swelling for typical cases. However, in large numbers, bee stings could kill a person. From the average human, 1,100 stings can already prove fatal. Meanwhile, people with allergies can be killed by even fewer stings. Definitely one of the bee facts to consider if you encounter a hive in the wild. A bee's brain chemistry changes from time to time. Bee colonies rely on worker bees for many crucial tasks such as food production to gathering pollen and nectar. As a result, they need to be in their best condition. Because of this, bees evolved to have a unique brain function, Depending on the task that a worker bee needs to perform, their brain chemistry changes too. A bee can remember your face. Among their heightened senses, bees can map out a person's facial characteristics, recognizing which kind souls would leave out nectar for them to come back to. This ability is now being studied for the development of facial recognition software. The sun helps bees with the navigation. Since their extra pair of eyes can perceive polarized and UV light, bees also use the sun's position to locate flowers with possible nectar and pollen. Bees see all kinds of colors except the color red. Bees can see for at least 300 to 650 nanometers. Like most insects, they can see all of the colors in the spectrum except the color red. Definitely one for curious bee facts. Around 1/3 of our food comes from a bee's honey pollination. As bees collect nectar for honey, they also indirectly pollinate the area, driving the growth of new plants and the overall ecology. In fact, over 80% of the world's plants have been pollinated by bees. To further illustrate, 1 out of every 4 bites of food results from the pollination of bees. Beekeepers are thriving in the U.S. With its origins dating back to the ancient civilizations, beekeeping remains as a crucial industry today. It's important to support local beekeepers in order to ensure that bees don't get exploited and subjected to inhumane methods for their honey. Drones cannot sting you with its venom. Drones do not have stingers, as their main role in mating does not require them to have one. Instead, male honeybees' only appendages are genitals that explode after mating, while the tip remains inside the female. This tip acts as a stopper for the sperm, so it wouldn't leak out. You can order honeybees. You can go get live buzzing honeybees in a box made of mesh and wood. Fresh wood. Once received, bees can continue with their hive making. However, it's important to know the basics and essentials of beekeeping so you wouldn't end up hurting yourself or the bees. Bees die when they sting humans. Typically, bees sting as a defense mechanism against other insects invading their hive. However, bees will meet an untimely death once they sting humans. Unlike insects' exoskeletons, human skin traps their stinger, eventually tearing it from the bee's body and killing them. Female or worker bees live for only 5 weeks. Female bees work until the very last day of their short lives. They gather nectar and pollen, continuing labor at the hive even a few hours before they die. You can only guess where the phrase busy bee comes from. Queen bees eat special food. Aside from honey, worker bees produce a substance called royal jelly. As the name suggests, only the queen bee and larvae can eat it. It is also the jelly that activates the queen morphology in larvae, eventually determining which bee would grow to be the next queen. The colony of bees would have 1 or more queen bees. In some cases, a new queen develops while the old queen is still alive. Under these circumstances, 2 queens can rule the colony until the first queen bee dies. The biggest bee species are bumblebees. Bumblebees grow 4 times bigger than the regular bees in the US. They are usually found in South America at a noticeable size of 1.6 inches. Bees have an extra stomach. One of the more interesting bee facts is that bees have 2 stomachs. The first one digests food, while the other stores nectar and water storage. Without an extra stomach, the transportation of honey would not be possible. There are 2 trillion bees today. According to the recent data, the estimate number of 2 trillion comes from the existing colonies and hives. Sadly, this number has experienced a decreasing trend due to many factors. Bees are facing many threats: parasites, climate change, and pesticides are just some of the common reasons why the bee population has slowly declined through the years. Without proper action, honey production and the overall balance of the ecosystem could be threatened as well. Bumblebees eat all the time. One of the fun bee facts is that bumblebees get hungry very easy. As the biggest bee species, and bumblebees have to be fed often to keep their work going. Bees play an important part in crop and plant production. One of the known bee facts is that bees pollinate flowers, vegetables, and fruits. This process allows plants to grow as they transfer pollen's female and male parts, allowing it to make seeds and bear fruit. The honey that bees store is for winter. Worker bees vigorously collect and store honey for the cold winter days. Luckily for us, they are very hard-working insects, so they produce more than what they need in the winter. This excess honey is then cultivated and sold for consumption. You could plant flowers that support bees. You could help bees thrive by planting nectar-rich flowers such as bluebells and lavenders. Drones die after mating. During the queen bee's mating flight, drones have the opportunity to mate for 7 to 10 rounds. After it exceeds this point, the drone's abdomen rips apart, killing it instantly. Honey from bees symbolize of love. The ancient Romans and Greeks viewed honey as a symbol of love. According to mythology, Cupid realized the value of passion without worrying about death or consequences after getting stung by a bee. High fences are used in fields. Native groups in Africa use bee fences to keep elephants from entering their fields and destroying their crops. The hives are placed around the area to protect the fields. These hive fences act as a humane alternative to wired or electronic fences. Apollo was the first beekeeper, according to Greek mythology. Apollo is a god in Greek mythology who was raised by bee colonies and lived on honey alone. Because of this, he was considered the first ever beekeeper in written history. Bees were believed to come from an animal carcass. From the ancient until the pre-modern times, people believed that bees came from bougonia, or animal carcasses. Napoleon chose the bee as its status emblem. Due to the bee's nature of toil and dedication to serving the queen, the bee represented the Napoleonic heraldry as its emblem. Generally, bees symbolize hard work, orderliness, diligence, and industriousness. Bees can locate landmines. In Croatia, bees are trained to locate hidden mines. Known to have excellent olfactory nerves, bees detect smells of any kind very easily. They are trained to identify the scent of explosives as food so that landmines could be traced. How's that for hardcore? And lastly, beehives are immortal. During the winter, bees enter a state of inactivity called torpor. However, they always awaken in time for spring. Bee types may come and go, but the hive remains strong as long as it's not destroyed by external forces.